Hey friends, Chris and Tricia here. Thanks for being back with us for our daily little 5, 6, 7 minute teaching from Matthew chapter 24. How's things going with you today?
Things are great. How about you?
Working hard in the house.
Of course, laundry and cleaning and keeping myself busy.
Vacuuming. It's interesting. She's got a vacuum cleaner. Our little dog chases it and bites the thing. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, she loves it.
We're Matthew 24 today.
Right.
What's going on?
I would like to remind our viewers there that we do have a website. It's chrisjackson.org. Chris is spelled with a K. We've got lots of good books on there. The t-shirts that say, "Oh, yes, I can," they're available on there.
We shipped one out finally after you having that on the other day. So I hope you'll
Two.
look those over and get the "Oh, yes, I can" t-shirt. We've got books and so forth. Today, we were on "He that endures to the end shall be saved." That's confusing to a lot of people because they wonder, who's that talking about? Are we going through the tribulation? Is it talking about the Jews going through the tribulation? What's it talking about? I think it's important I share something on interpreting Bible prophecy, that you have to understand who the text or the context is speaking to. Sometimes the Lord is speaking just to the disciples, and when He's speaking to the disciples, He's speaking to the whole church. Sometimes He's speaking to Jewish disciples, and it deals with Jews. So I want to show you a little breakdown here in Matthew 24 and 25, and it relates to the verse that Paul mentioned in 1 Corinthians 10 and 32. I want you to read this because this is how you translate Bible prophecy. You have to know exactly who it's being spoken of at the time. Give me verse 32. Did you look that up for me? Okay. What's that say?
Give no offense either to the Jews or to the Greeks or to the church of God.
Okay, so there's three groups there. The Jews, the Greeks, which is Gentiles, or some translations will even say the nations, or to the church of God. So there's three different ways of interpreting different prophetic texts. Does it have to do with the Jewish people? Is it messianic? Does it point towards Israel? Or does it deal with the church? Is it apostolic? Is it things concerning the church getting ready for the coming of the Lord? Or does it deal with the nations? You're going to find out in Matthew. Go back to Matthew, and this might be new to you, but I want you to study along with me. Just have Bible study here for a second. Because this first part that we've been looking at, he's saying there's going to be false Christs, nation's going to rise against nation, people are going to fall away, they're going to hate you, they're going to be offended, many are going to be killed, this gospel will be preached in the whole world. And as we read through this, we find out that Matthew 24, what we call the Olivet Discourse, or the Sermon from the Mount of Olives, or the prophecy from the Mount of Olives, deals specifically for the Jewish people. The reason we know that, but you can follow along, you don't have to read these, but he says, pray that your flight be not in the winter or in the Sabbath. That's verse 20. So the Sabbath is not something that we necessarily celebrate. That's a Jewish thing. It says in verse 10, let those that are in Judea flee from the mountains. Well, we don't live in Judea, so that text can't be talking to us. He talks about the abomination of desolation that's set up in the temple. We don't have a temple here in Branson, Missouri. That's talking about Jerusalem. So when you read that, what I'm saying, that deals with the Jewish people. So don't try to make something prophetically fit the church or fit America or Brazil or anywhere else if it specifically has things in it that are Jewish and have a Jewish context and are meant for the nation of Israel, okay? So he said Jew, Greek, and the church of God. So when we go to the end now of the 24th chapter, you'll see that in verse 32, that he begins to give us different parables. He talks about as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. We don't know the day or the hour, but Noah went into the ark and the door was shut. That's not talking to the Jews, that's talking to the church. That's getting us ready. We know that because in the 25th chapter he said 5 wise, 5 foolish. The 5 went in, the door was shut. The other 5 stood on the outside, said open to us. That's not talking to Israel. That is specifically speaking to the church, that the church has to get ready and get into Christ because the door is going to be shut one of these days and we're not going to have have a chance to be right. He said if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would have come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. The rapture of the church comes as a thief in the night. So this isn't talking to the Jew. This is talking to the church. And but then when you go into chapter 25, flip over there and look at this in verse 32. Verse 31 and 32, and I'll close with this. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, he will set up his throne of his glory. That is at the end of the tribulation. Now notice verse 32. Go ahead and read verse 32.
32. All the nations.
All the what?
All the nations.
Okay, now we're talking not about Jews. We're not talking about church. Church has been taken home. We're talking about
the nations.
Nations. Go ahead and read that.
All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats.
And so the rest of that chapter deals with how the nations of the world had treated God's people, the nation of Israel, during the tribulation time. So I'm just giving you this just as a word of caution that just don't get the word scrambled and mixed up. Make sure that when he's talking to the Jew that you understand it as the Jew. When he's talking to the church that you understand, I don't mean the Jew, I mean the nation of Israel, Jewish people, God's people, Abrahamic covenant people. We love them. And when he's talking to the church, the blood-bought church, then we need to understand that when he's talking to the nations, because there's a lot of prophecy that deals with the nations in the last days. Right. Sorry I didn't give you much chance to talk, honey, but you can have it from here for the next 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Like, comment,
I'm promoting
share.
Shasta today.
There you go. We'd love to hear from you guys. Have a blessed day.
God bless you.